Our next speaker is someone that stood up for Mr Mallard. Our next speaker is the Shadow Attorney General, John Quigley.
Thank you very much. I acknowledge the traditional owners of this land and pay my respects to them. I stand before you today not as a defence counsel or in any way to defend anything that Mr Spratt may or may not have done in his past. That's not my job. I stand before you today not to condemn or vilify Mr Spratt. That is what the Commissioner of Police and the Premier have so shamefully done. That's not my job. My job, and which I proudly do on behalf of the Australian Labor Party, is to stand up for the human rights of all citizens. And what we saw of the footage of the East Perth lockup amounts nothing short of torture of a prisoner in custody. Once any person is arrested and taken into custody, the state of Western Australia owe to that person a duty of care. Yes. They totally failed in their duty of care to Mr Spratt. Quite the contrary, they tortured him. Yes. Now, they also said that there was no charges to be laid. We've shown that there is a DPP opinion floating out that there's a prima facie case of assault against those police in the lockup, and we're demanding that they do be charged for this act of torture. Furthermore, there is a massive cover-up happening in Western Australia at the moment, and this cover-up is being orchestrated by Premier Barnett, the Premier of cover-ups. In the Parliament, I asked whether the government would release the copy of the second video where Mr Spratt was tasered a further 11 times by 5 custodial officers. He sustained a 3 broken ribs, a ruptured lung and a dislocated shoulder. The reply I got was, we don't even know that his lung was ruptured. We don't know anything about this. And secondly, we will not release the video because it will release custodial officers' secrets. What a disgrace. I'm calling upon the Premier of Western Australia today to end the cover-up. And I'm going to show this doubting Thomas something. We know that if he was at the crucifixion of Christ, he wouldn't have believed in Christ's death without poking his finger into the wounds. Well, come over here, please, Mr Spratt. Come over here. I wonder if you'd be kind enough to loosen your shirt, Mr Spratt. When Mr Spratt woke up in hospital, he was chained to a bed. Shame on you! Take your hand away. He was chained to a bed with a big tube sticking out of his chest, where he'd had emergency surgery concerned with his ruptured lung. Now, the government sitting not 10 metres away from me in the Parliament say they don't know anything about this. What a cover-up. Do you want to come here this morning, or I can make an appointment for you this evening, Mr Barnett, and you can put your finger on the wound and open your eyes, you Premier of cover-ups? The Western Australian opposition, led by my erstwhile deputy leader here, Mr Roger Cook. Thank you for coming along today, Roger, and myself and the leader of the opposition are demanding right now, this weekend, the Premier end his cover-up. Premier Barnett, Premier of cover-ups, you can pick up the phone and order the release of that video to the public now. What they have done, they have further sought to victimise Mr Spratt by saying we will show him the video so long as he signs a contract agreeing that none of you people can see it, that none of the viewers on television can see it, that only Mr Spratt, who suffered the torture, is allowed to see it. What a disgrace. What a cover-up. Finally, and I'm doing this in reverse order, I'd also like to thank Mr Mick Gooder, the Deputy Commissioner of the Australian Human Rights Commission, who is in charge of the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander portfolio. Mr Gooder is with us here this morning. I know that the Australian Human Rights Commission are going to monitor the progress of this. This is an incident of international significance, and you can shame yourself. You can shame yourself, Premier. You can shame our state by trying to maintain a cover-up. It ain't going to work, because I'm keeping my pinky finger right on this page, Premier, and you're not going to get away with this one. Thank you very much for having me here.
Thank you, Mr. Quigley. I really appreciate that. Someone talking up for me. Thank you very much. And I'd like to thank everyone for turning up today, and everyone who organised the rally. It really means a lot to me. And from the bottom of my heart, I'd just like to say thanks. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, John.
Indeed, the people of the world. This video is of international significance as to how we treat Indigenous people in custody in Western Australia. The Barnett government can't hide forever. I'm telling you, Premier, this video is going to come out, and if other authorities have to release it, it will prove that you are the leader of the government of cover-up. You came to power saying you'd be a fully accountable government. End the cover-up now, Premier Barnett, and order the immediate release of the second horrendous video.
Do you know anything about this pregnant Aboriginal woman that was tasered?
No, I can't comment on her situation at the moment. What we're focusing on today is the public interest. It is clearly in the public interest, Mr. Barnett, and there wouldn't be a person watching the news tonight who would not agree with me. They mightn't agree with me on most things, Premier Barnett, but there won't be a person in their lounge room tonight watching this newscast who will not agree that Premier Barnett should end the cover-up immediately and order the public release of the second video and stop the pathetic excuses to keep the cover-up going.
The Premier yesterday cut short questioning about the Spratt case, saying he had to have a cup of coffee. What do you think of that?
He was absolutely rattled and shocked when it was revealed that the first video proves that the police lied to the courts and Mr. Barnett wanted to run and hide inside a coffee cup. It's disgraceful. I'm calling upon Premier Barnett to order an end to the cover-up immediately and release the second video that the government is holding to the public of Western Australia. It is the taxpayers' video. It happened on taxpayers' premises, and the taxpayers are entitled to see the video that the government is keeping secret. End the cover-up now, Premier Barnett, and release the second video.
Should police continue to be able to use tasers while there's such a cloud over their handling of this?
The CCC has put out a report recommending that the tasers should be the same as in New South Wales, that every taser gun should have the optional video camera on top of it. Every taser in New South Wales has the video camera on top of it. Premier Barnett continues with that cover-up and will not force the police to have videos on their tasers, and we all know why, because these videos, in the first video has proven that Western Australian police have blatantly lied to the courts of Western Australia, and Premier Barnett is supporting the police in covering this up. Premier Barnett will despoil his premiership, as he is known as, not a premier interested in justice, but the premier of cover-ups. It is disgraceful around Australia that the premier of Western Australia is covering up the second video. Release the second video now, Premier Barnett, and end the cover-up.
Mr. Barnett says he turned into a folk hero. He does have a criminal history. Are you trying to turn him into a hero?
What a disgraceful comment of Premier Barnett. It wasn't Mr. Spratt who sought any publicity on that. It wasn't myself who sought any publicity on that. The CCC released a videotape, and both the government and the Commissioner of Police went to town to destroy Mr. Spratt before he even knew that there was a press conference being called. It's just a disgraceful attack, a further attack on Mr. Spratt.
Excuse me, mate, please, can you not do that?
There's just a disgraceful further attack on Mr. Spratt by trying to say that he's trying to turn himself into a hero. They've victimised him in the Perth police lockup by seriously injuring him, and now Premier Barnett is trying to further injure him by his disgraceful attacks upon him. You're covering up, Premier Barnett. You know you're covering up. You know that the first video has proved that the police lied to the courts. Now end the cover-up in Western Australia and order the immediate release of the second video. You can run, Premier, but you cannot hide. As I have said a month ago, I'm keeping my pinky finger right on this page of accountability. This video will ultimately come out, Premier. You've got an option. You can be the Premier who will go down in history as the architect of cover-up, or you can do the right thing by the public of Western Australia and end the cover-up today and release the second video.
You say that the second video was on taxpayers' property, and so therefore taxpayers have a right to see it. Would you acknowledge, though, that there might be some security reasons that it needs to be edited, or...?
No, I do not. I do not. This is a false excuse being raised by a slippery Attorney General. We know that down in the Perth Watch House, 5 days after the first taser attack, Mr Spratt was viciously attacked again, another 11 times, breaking 3 of his ribs, puncturing his lung, dislocating his shoulder, and he woke up chained to a bed in Royal Perth Hospital. The taxpayers have an interest in seeing what happened on taxpayers' property by taxpayer-funded officers. End the cover-up now of what's happening at the Perth Police lockup, Mr Barnett, and release the second video and call for a public inquiry. The opposition are calling for a public inquiry and the full release of the second video. None of this secrecy. This is absolutely shameful episode in Western Australia's history.
Thanks.
John, the actions with the taser gun on an Aboriginal man, how do you see that in the context of this country moving forward with reconciliation?
Well, I thought we were on a good path, but this incident at the East Perth lockup and the taser torture of an Indigenous prisoner really is a big step backwards, both for police credibility and for reconciliation, because all the Indigenous people out there can see, now that this video has come out, what happens in the East Perth lockup, and now the Premier is covering up by keeping the second video secret. And until that second video is released, people should have no confidence that the Western Australian Government or Premier Barnett has any interest in justice or truth.
Now, the issue of releasing publicly someone's criminal record, as a lawyer, an ex-lawyer for the police union, how do you feel about that? It's
absolutely appalling. The Premier's referred to it as unprecedented, and when the newspaper went back to them to seek clarification of that, the release of that criminal record, the police confessed, we can't say any more because it's illegal. It's breathtaking. They acknowledged its illegality, and now the whole matter is the subject of a CCC inquiry. It should be a public inquiry, and the Premier should convene a public inquiry to get to the bottom of this.
Now, the Australian Labor Party was based on the rights of ordinary people. How strong is the Labor Party in Western Australia on this issue?
The Labor Party is very strong. We opposed stop and search laws. We opposed them until the last. We've opposed naming and shaming of children. Root and branch, I said we opposed it, and we have opposed it. And we are very, very strong, the Australian Labor Party, to defend human rights. We're not here to defend the past of Mr Spratt. We're not here to vilify Mr Spratt. What we are here today to do is to respect the human rights of all people and acknowledge that prisoners who are in custody are owed a duty of care by the state of Western Australia.
And I presume you're a member of the WA Law Society. Do they have a stance on what's been happening?
The WA Law Society have already expressed their extreme concern, and I'm calling upon the Premier to end the cover-up now and to release the second video.